for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 317 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we are here live every Wednesday night on the Going for Two Live podcast network on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Syndicated in all major podcast networks. If you are currently watching us on Twitter, we cannot see your comments. So go find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@GoingForTwoLive, and then we can see your comments. You can interact with the show. I'm here with my co-host, as always, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, man, just happy to talk some football. And I think we have a fellow Raven fan on tonight, or am I mistaken?
Got that right. Well, for now,
right.
We'll see what happens.
This is the first time Jeff's ever brought another Ravens fan on the show in the entire 5 years we've been together. We've had very great Ravens fans who wanted to come on and Jeff rejected. I think you tricked him. So mazel tov.
No, I've just argued with him so much he had no choice but to bring me on. I think that's
bring him on.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that voice that you hear, he's on the show now for the second time, Mr. Thomas Tipple. He's the host and co-creator of the Full Tilt podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Thomas Tipple FF. What's up, man?
Yo, I am happy to be here. Not a draft this time. I think it was a draft I was doing, but I looked at the draft we're going to be talking about, and look, if you're not in the Going for Two Discord, you should be. You can come there.
Like this person.
You can show up there, right? And you can yell at me if you want. And I will have numbers ready for you, and I will gladly give you a chance to rebuttal. These teams, awful. Just dog water. Would not serve them to feral cats. Like, it's just terrible, awful, atrocious.
Yes, if you are not in the Discord, definitely go check it out. You can find it two ways. You can go to my profile on Twitter and click on the link there, or if you go to goingfor2.com, in the bottom right corner, you'll see a little Twitch Discord icon. Sorry, click on that; it'll bring you right to our Discord channel. And if you don't want to argue with Thomas, you can just sit back with your popcorn and watch me and him argue, because we do it quite often in that chat there. We disagree on a lot of things, but
just stop taking running backs above ADP.
I actually take the receivers higher than running backs.
Can I cuss? Like, is that
yes?
Because it's going to be very hard for me to not drop mad F-bombs.
Yeah, there's like a 7 or 8 F-bomb limit before
Okay.
iTunes sends you a warning, because Gersten on my other show has tested it many times. We've only gotten one warning so far. So
it means you get 5 to 6, so I have a couple just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
All right, Thomas, quickly give our listeners a quick rundown of what you do in the fantasy space.
Oh man, what am I not doing? So, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's right up there, one of the best Discords around. I helped build it, so shout out. I do too many podcasts for sure. Everything at the Full Tilt Fantasy Football Network, whether it's the Full Tilt Devy, Full Tilt Dynasty, the Fantasy Walkabout. I am over there at Fantasy Points. We just finished our best ball show with Chris Wecht, formerly of GoingFor2.com, Jeff, and Scott Barrett. So shout out those two. We do that. And I'm just doing a lot of video editing, audio editing, YouTube SEOing. I do a little bit of everything, man. And I have no life, so this is it. I do a lot of arguing about ADPs and draft pick values. So we're going to put that to work today.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I was just going to promo that. So you kind of alluded to it already. We're going to be doing a startup draft breakdown, an actual real startup draft that I got from the Discord channel from one of our members there. We're also going to be doing a mock draft of some overrated Dynasty players. But before we get to our nonsense draft, let me pay some bills really quick here. Today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their industry-leading best ball leagues with huge tournaments, private leagues, and pick'ems for all major sports. Use our promo code GF2 and get a deposit match up to $100. It's as simple as that. Use promo code GF2 and start drafting your best ball teams. So we always kick the show off here with our nonsense draft. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
All right, so this one is a little bit unique. I actually stole this from a TikTok that I watched.
Don't give other people credit. Don't give TikTokers credit.
Don't give TikTokers credit. They weren't drafting them. They were just kind of thinking. Basically, if you reversed the results of every championship game in any sport, we can do basketball, football, and NHL, whatever. Who would the GOATs be? So obviously, guys like Michael Jordan, who went 6-0 in real life. In this alternate universe, those would all be flipped. He'd be 0-6, so he could not be considered the GOAT, obviously. So it would mean somebody else would be the GOAT. We're going to do all sports here, and we're going to do a draft of these guys. For me, there's a clear 101, but as always, the guest gets the 101. So go ahead and give us your pick here, Thomas.
Bloody right, I get the first pick. This is how we roll. It's LeBron James. There's no number two. I mean, the argument is always Jordan had rings. Well, guess what? If championships were all reversed, Jordan would be, just a guy. He'd be a jag. And not only the greatest basketball player of all time, LeBron James, the best scorer, one of the best defenders, the best all-around players of all time, carried 3 separate franchises to a championship and done it with a bunch of nobodies for the most part. And the dude gets nothing but criticized because Jordan is championships. It's pretty easy. You flip those around. It's LeBron James. And it's not, I don't think there's a remotely close to.
Yeah, and that's a great answer. LeBron James currently, 4-6 in his championships. He flipped that around. He's 6-4, and he went.
Then Jordan people will be like, but he lost 4 times.
Yeah,
but then Jordan would have lost 6.
But Jordan's
they can suck it.
Okay.
So yeah, it would be LeBron James in that alternate reality. So that wasn't my 101. That was actually my 102. So you did not take my 101. My 101 is a guy so I think NFL is probably one of the hardest sports to repeat in. We've seen it throughout the years. But if we're going repeat, Mr. Jim Kelly, who went 0-4 in 4 straight years, you give him that 4-0 in 4 straight Super Bowls. And to me, he becomes the GOAT just based on that alone. I think no team has gone 3 in a row, and he would have done it 4 times in a row, which would have been insane. So Jim Kelly would have been my 101 with a close second to LeBron James, because LeBron James is in the GOAT conversation with those losses. You flip that around, and he obviously is the GOAT for sure. All right, Ryan, you got the 103 here.
Did the one they said they had to appear in a championship?
Had to appear. So we're basically just taking the championship game, and whoever lost now won.
Okay. I'm going Dan Marino. He made it there year 2. And after losing in the Super Bowl, it was like never the same. He had these huge numbers, and then he had this reputation. It kind of went with him. I think it changed his history. And with his passing numbers, adding that championship, you're talking with him up there with anybody.
Yeah, he's on my list too. He actually, that would have been my third, because just for that one reason. You give him that one Super Bowl with the numbers that he had in a non-passing era, like, today's numbers are mind-boggling compared to them. And he, they were all chasing him for so long. So he was putting the numbers up back in the day when it was mostly, run this, slow it down, be efficient. And he was just throwing the ball all over the field. So yeah, you give him that one Super Bowl, and I agree. I think he's up there as well. 104, Thomas, what you got?
So he's the greatest baseball player to ever play the game, and he's not in the Hall of Fame, but it's Barry Bonds.
That was my next one.
He lost the one championship, right, that he got to. It was a crushing loss for San Francisco. And the one knock that he's really ever had, aside from quite clearly being on the gas, is that he didn't win the big game. Baseball is a sport that you just simply cannot win by yourself. But Barry Bonds has statistics. Like he could play for 3 years, a full 162 game schedule, bat 350 times a year and not get a hit. And he would still be like a plus 300 hitter. Like the dude had more walks than other people had hits that played full time. Like, he's just the most disgusting baseball player to have ever played. And it's not even about the home run chases. Those were dope, but his base stealing, his glove work, his intelligence at the plate. People would intentionally walk him to score a run with the bases loaded. They feared this man so much. There's no one that can touch Barry Bonds, and it's the one championship. He should already be regarded as the greatest of all time, but I feel like in kind of like a Marino-esque way, it's still held against him. So it's Barry Bonds for me.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I don't know baseball that well, so that was definitely a good choice there. And I've seen this. There's another TikTok. I watched a ton of TikTok, but there's a TikTok that does these crazy stats. And I remember they had one for Barry Bonds.
Yep. Stats about Barry Bonds that you
odd,
can't
crazy down.
Yeah. I actually know the TikToker you're talking about.
It was the craziest was his 73 home run year. If you play baseball and you went 1 for 3 with a home run in every at bat and every one of your hits, so 162 home runs, he'd still have a higher slugging percentage than you.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Like, he's right up there with Tony Gwynn level statistics, honestly.
Yeah, it's insane. It really
also,
is.
K-Rod didn't deserve that championship, so fight me.
All right, I'm up here at the 105. I think all the picks that have gone before obviously would be considered GOATs, but if we're looking at, we're trying to pick basically 9 players here that we can put in this category. The next guy that's on the list for me, it's ironic because he has 2 championships. He won 2, lost 2, but it's the 2 that he won that sort of make him a public enemy number 1. And if he had flipped the way he had won them, I think it changes the outlook on people, and it's Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant obviously won 2 chips with the Golden State Warriors. He lost 1 with the Golden State Warriors, and he lost 1 with OKC where he was swept by LeBron James. If you flip those 2 around, he wins that 1 with OKC, as a young player against LeBron. Then he goes to Golden State and they lose their first 2 and then lose that last one before he moves on. I think it changes the narrative because he would have won with OKC before going to Golden State. So I think that puts him in the GOAT conversation just based on that alone. But the fact that he left OKC to quote unquote chase a championship with a team that just won championship kind of ruined his reputation a little bit. But KD would be up there with the stats and everything else for me with a 2-2 record. Ryan, what you got here for the 106?
I'm going back to the Bills teams with the fact that he doesn't get talked to as much is Bruce Smith. He was 2-time defensive player of the year. He's the all-time sack leader. And you still hear other defensive ends, other defensive players in the conversation. I'm not going to say he's the best player ever because he's not my best player ever. That's Ray Lewis. But, if he won 4 Super Bowls to go with 200 sacks and 2 defensive players of the year and 8 All-Pros, there would be never another player in the consideration for the greatest defender of all time.
Yeah, and that is on my list too, you bastard. I thought that one was to number 9. I would have taken him earlier if I had known, but I thought for sure
I like defense.
So, yeah, that's a great pick because you're right. I mean, he has all the stats to go with it. You give him 4 straight Super Bowls. Yeah, he's definitely in that conversation for sure. All right, Thomas, back to you for the for your last pick here at 107.
So I'm going to go back to baseball, and I'm going to go to Georgia in Atlanta. So the Atlanta Braves pitching staff, I'm going to give the entire staff a shout out. Remember, they won 1 championship. Well, they could have had a lot more. The Atlanta Braves lost the 1992 to the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost the 1996 and the 1999 World Series. If you think that they go 3-1 in that time, not 1-3, how different would we be approaching the Chipper Jones, Braves, the Maddox, that entire Smoltz, that entire staff and that team? Even Primetime, right? Deion Sanders would have netted a title. So I think that looking at that entire Braves dynasty, less one player, but I'm going to make it a team. We'll be looking at one of the greatest teams of a decade, all just by flipping the championships around. And it'll be, 2 fewer championships for the Yankees. So shout out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I don't watch much baseball, but that's one team that I did watch a lot. Because they were, go ahead.
I was gonna say I will give a player though, because I kind of copped out, but I'll also say Ozzie Smith. So Ozzie Smith was on the 1980s Cardinals that won 1 championship out of 3 attempts. And if he would have just went 2 for 1, he's known for his glove. He's not a big offensive war guy. He's like in the top 200 in hits, but he can easily be passed by a lot of middle infielders in today's game. I feel like when you hear Ozzie Smith, you hear his glove, not him as like an all-around elite player. Those 2 championships in the 80s would have really cemented his status as an all-time great, not just an all-time great defender.
Yeah, great pick. All right, I'm up at the 108, and y'all have taken a lot of the guys that I had on my list. There's a couple more basketball players that I've got on this list, and I'm probably going to just pick with one of them. But actually, you know what? I'm going to go a different route here. This guy, he's already considered one of the greatest, and he went to 5 Super Bowls, and he did end up finally winning 2 of them towards the end of his career. But I think if we flip it and make him 3-2 instead of 2-3, Mr. John Elway, the way that he sort of had those amazing sort of comebacks, you know, those amazing games versus the Browns back in the day that led up to the Super Bowls and eventually lost them. I think if you flip that around and that whole storyline with how he got there and everything else, I think he becomes one of the greats at 3-2. Like I said, he won 2 in the latter part of his career, but we know that was mostly Terrell Davis that was doing a lot of the heavy lifting on those teams. But at 3-2, when he was basically the man on that team in those days, I think John Elway would be way up there as far as one of the all-time greats for sure. Ryan closes out here at the 109.
I'm getting another man with 0 chips, but he had a loss in one. And if he would have won that one, he already is a legendary player, but the myths would be out of this world for Allen Iverson. If he would have single-handedly beat that Lakers team,
great call.
Somehow, some way, the way we already look at him is crazy because how much he was for like the culture of basketball and his great feats. But if we saw him win that championship against Kobe and Shaq, he would be like one of the just like myths in sports.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm actually pissed that you took that one. I didn't think of it because I actually played against Allen Iverson in high school, and
how many drop did you guard him? And how many
I did have to guard him. It was not pretty.
How many did you drop on you?
I don't even remember. It was too many. I lost count. Yeah, it was.
Did he give you the Ty Lue treatment?
No, I didn't get that. No, but I will say I've always said this on the podcast too a couple of times. I think he listed at 6'1" in the NBA. He is not 6'1". That dude is not over 6 foot.
Maybe he had a growth spurt out of high school, man.
Maybe, I don't know. I just remember everyone saying that he's 6'1". I'm like, I was 6'3" in high school, and that dude was not even. I mean, I looked down on that dude. 6'1", you can go eye to eye. He was definitely a lot smaller than that, but yeah, pound for pound, he's probably the best player that ever played in the NBA, in my opinion, because he was so small and the things that he did were just amazing. So great pick there, Ryan, to close us out.
Can I give a bonus?
Go ahead. Let's do it.
Steve Nash.
That's a good one.
Steve Nash would have not just been regarded as the greatest Canadian basketball player of all time. He would have been one of the best guards in the entire game.
2 MVPs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He would have been regarded as one of the best guards of all time. Yep. So that was my bonus.
Good call.
Yeah. Are you get the Stockton Malone combo too?
Yeah, but Malone's kind of a pile of garbage. So
yeah, I mean that is true.
Any.
Yeah, I had both of them on my list, and I couldn't pull that trigger. I was like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna go a different route because I just didn't want to. But yeah, I'm
pro Stockton, but Malone can get yeeted.
Yeah, that's fair. Good stuff. All right, so we're gonna do a startup breakdown here. Let me pull up the draft here. It's gonna be a little bit blurry, but we should be able to make out most of the players' names here.
Yeah, but if you had a PC, it wouldn't be.
Yeah. If only you had a more powerful piece of equipment, Jeff.
Yes, yeah. We won't get into the pre-show conversation, which where I pretty much stated that Apple is the best by far.
I literally have my specs if you ever wanted to get into it.
All right, we're getting into this mock draft. I'm sorry, this startup draft here, and way we'll do this is I'll kind of go round by round here, and I'll let each one of you kind of pick a good pick from each round and a pick that you don't like from each round. And then we'll also go through and break down a couple of the teams that I picked out that were a bit interesting to me. So the first one here, let's see, first round, again, Superflex League, startup draft. It looks like the rookies are included. So there wasn't, kickers where you get the pick. It was the actual rookies' names were included in this startup as well. And Tom, I'm gonna go to you first because I know you had a couple guys that you were mentioned right before we got into the show here that you didn't like in this first round. So give me the guy or the pick that you hated the most in this first round.
Why would you draft any running back at 102? Let alone, like, I get it. I get that it's Bijan, and it's like, do you remember people were drafting Jonathan Taylor like in the top 3? Like, it seems like every year someone just wants to be contrarian and take like the new hotness running back that early. Stop it. All the quarterbacks that were drafted, sans the 2 rookies at the end of this, which I would also love to discuss as bad process, will last in the NFL longer than Bijan will, period. So if you're looking at Superflex, I get you want to be team youth, which is what Alex on the ship. And I know you and I are in leagues together. So shout out to you. But this is terrible. This is a terrible decision. Even if you wanted to draft Bijan Robinson, you could have traded down. And I'll tell you why. According to the Bulletproof ADP, which is a rolling ADP updated, Bijan Robinson, the pick 101, is being drafted at the 111. That is the average draft position. Yes, there are contrarian situations where Bijan Robinson gets drafted that early. Stop it. We saw what happened with Taylor and how volatile it is. We saw Breece Hall volatility. ETN was getting up there as the RB1 for like 4 or 5 weeks. If you go to crowdsourcing places like Keep Trade Cut, he was the RB1 for a while. Kenneth Walker, the RB1 for a short period of time. And the volatility, one thing goes wrong. They stub their toe and they miss a week, and they're not anymore. You've already set your dynasty roster back in future value by not only taking that pick in a super flex draft. This would be completely different, obviously, if it's a 1 QB, but it's not. And you actively knew that it wasn't. Trading back was the optimal decision in this, quite clearly. And just Josh Allen is a running back. You could put Josh Allen at running back with his rushing statistics. It would be a top 10 running back. Jalen Hurts, another example. This is Justin Fields. Like, it is, I understand that people just want to have a great time. And if this was your thought process, you just want to have a great time. You just want to get these young guys. I totally understand it. He's the cheapest he's going to be when you get him in a startup. Absolutely not at the expense of elite quarterback upside. And that is just, to me, basic, glaring, bad roster building. Like, this is a potential orphan team in 3 years, and I hate to see that. I'm sorry if that was savage, but that's what I was brought here for.
Nope, and I just brought up his entire team here just so we can kind of see what he's got.
Oh, I can keep going. You took Bryce Young at 111 over.
Come on, man.
You took Bryce Young over.
You're taking Ryan's pick next.
Yeah, you're taking my pick.
Hey, look,
you one pick. Yeah.
You know what? Sorry, but I get not wanting Lamar Jackson, but Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray. I'll let Ryan.
You're not.
I'll pass the mic to Ryan. But
you're not bringing up the worst part about that pick. The worst part about that pick is he traded up for that pick.
Correct.
That's Alex. I love you. You're bringing up great talking points, but you essentially traded up to pass on a proven quarterback for a sub 6 foot quarterback at 111 to go 2 question marks with rookies to start your draft. Like, dude, it's one thing to draft from there. Like, I don't support that. I was going to say Stroud over him, but you know what? You traded up for that, and that's the difference. Like, it's one thing to make a bad pick. It's 2 things to trade up to make a bad pick.
So now here's the other part of this, right? Like, I talk about in your strategies constantly how you should construct. Like, you don't want to make a draft pick in rounds 4, 5, and 6 because the ADPs in those specific rounds are awful. They're very mid. Like, there's not much to be gained in that. And you should be moving up into that 1, 2, and 3 with those mid-round picks. So if you go Josh Allen at 2 and trade back up from your 211 into that 111 spot and just walk away with like Deshaun Watson, that's a smash. I would be running to high five you because you've gotten your elite quarterbacks. But in this case, I understand, like, the average draft position, again, according to I use the Bulletproof ADP. If you're not a part of the Bulletproof Discord, head over, to bulletproof and get on that. But the 102's average draft position as of the update on this rolling ADP is 208. You could have barely moved back or moved up and still gotten the pick that you wanted. It's just not seeing the board. You went in with a predetermined plan and executed that, and you didn't think of the rest of that league. And it shows in your final build.
Yeah, I'll add insult to injury on this one too. Let's just say that he wanted to get, one of those top running backs, and that's why he went 102 Bijan. Had he gone with Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts there, if you look at who he would have gotten in the second round, had he not had to trade up, he'd have gotten Kenneth Walker, who I think he's a pretty damn good running back too.
Right.
And you also have the elite quarterback, and you're not trading up into the first round and sacrificing more picks to get Bryce Young. So
yeah, Josh Allen and Walker look much better to me than Bijan and Bryce Young.
Agreed.
Right. And I think that just comes from general building in process. Like I talk about process constantly, and you want to maximize your production. I guarantee you, I understand that Bijan is phenomenal and he's more than likely going to be great. There's not a non-zero chance that he busts or that if he's Josh Jacobs. And I'll tell you, for the dynasty community and his value, if Bijan Robinson is Josh Jacobs, there will be riots. So and think about that precedent. Like Josh Jacobs was coming back off of back-to-back RB1 seasons and high RB1 seasons, and people are saying that's not good enough for Bijan. Imagine what his value is going to hit in 2 years if he doesn't push through that.
Yep.
So I understand it would have been cheaper to just get him after this draft than it would be to take him at the now. You know what? If you want to take him at 111, you want to take him at 110, you want to take him at 19 because the quarterbacks you really love aren't off the board, do it. But you're talking about top 5 elite dynasty quarterbacks that are all very good. I mean, how early Joe Burrow went bothers me, but that's neither here nor there. So that's just a stylistic issue for me, not just a flat out strategy issue for me. Bad. That's bad process. But Alex, I love you. Come trade with me. I'll make it up to you in a deal. It's fine. But for this is clearly I had a plan.
Yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, I agree 100%. So let's skip to the second round here, and let's flip it and think of a pick that we liked in this second round. We'll go to you first this time, Ryan. Give me a pick that you liked in the second round.
Honestly, I'm kind of a big fan of that Jalen Waddle pick at the 212. I'd take him over a couple of the receivers who go before him. I think we're not tapping his full upside yet, and he's proved that he can perform with Tyreek Hill. And if Tua's brain doesn't go to mush this season, that offense is clicking.
Oh, I have to so hard disagree with you on Jalen Waddle. 26% of his offensive production came from 2 games. He had more games finishing as a wide receiver 3 than he even did as a wide receiver 2. Even in the games where he finished as a wide receiver 2, he was either a top 10 or nothing. He was very much replaceable, if not for 2 games. So Jalen Waddle at that spot, I think is okay, but I would rather have Garrett Wilson. I would rather have Amon-Ra. I would rather have Chris Olave. I would rather have his compatriot in Tyreek Hill. So I don't love that pick. Specifically, it's an issue I have with Waddle, who I think he's a good player. I think you're right. Like maybe he's just tapping in, but when you're talking about a guy at that spot for consistency, it's not him. So I just think there's other guys that you can replicate his value with and get a plus on top. Like knowing that I could trade down from Jalen Waddle to Cooper Kupp or T. Higgins and get massive pluses on top of that just seems like an easy smash to me. But that's just how I construct my roster.
Fair.
Just as a tidbit.
Is there a pick in this second round that you do like, Thomas?
Deshaun Watson. Like Deshaun Watson's a first round startup pick. You got him at 2.9. You did what I think Alex should have done, right? You got Hurts and you got Watson. I don't love your third round pick because Kyle Pitts was on the board, and that's just an easy smash with that setup. But I mean, the Jalen Hurts, Deshaun Watson start is my probably my second favorite start in this draft.
Good stuff. Any picks that you hate in this round, Ryan?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty solid this round. Like, No, honestly, there's really not anything I despise. I think Hall might be a little bit of a chance there. And there's a couple backs I take over him. He scares me a little bit. But if you believe he can get back and you're fine with waiting until he may not be there early season, that's okay. But I guess probably my least favorite of the grouping.
Fair enough.
Like over Kenneth Walker for me, over Etienne, who goes 2 rounds later. It's just, I don't know, it feels a little bit of reach.
Fair enough.
I'll say overall that I didn't like. It's anyone that took a player that wasn't an elite quarterback that needed one, right? So this Jamar Chase, Taylor, Jacobs start. Okay, just draft a quarterback, man. Right? Taylor's great, but again, just draft Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson. Jonathan Taylor is one more bad season away from being a dead zone running back, period. I got flack last year when I said DeAndre Swift could fall out of the, like, not only the top 10 dynasty running backs, but you can fall out of the top, 3 or 4 rounds in a startup draft. And people were very, very mad. And look what's happening, right? Him and Montgomery are damn near going back to back. So again, stability. I mean, what was your 2 quarterbacks? Unless I click on this and I see you made a trade somewhere. Okay, Trey Lance. Okay, you back that up with Brock Purdy. I mean, okay. Is Aaron Rodgers playing? Where is he playing? Don't know. Okay. Like you went a very all-in roster and you're missing the quarterback. And let me tell you, you can only get lucky with like a Sam Darnold-esque run at the end of the year a couple of times.
Yeah.
Look, Brian, thank you. If you're not getting 2 top 10 to 12 quarterbacks at startup, you are doing it wrong. And I never say that. I mean, shout out Brian, man. Frequent visitor to the Full Tilt Discord. Him and I, we go toe to toe quite often, and I'm glad he agreed with me here.
Absolutely. All right. So let's see. We're moving into the let's look at a couple of rounds here. So let's go 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds here, just so we can get through this draft pretty quickly here. 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. Give me a couple picks, Thomas, that you like and that you don't like out of those 3 rounds.
I mean, you're asking me to go quickly, which is tough. Remember, Italian, we talk a lot. How you doing? I mean, I love all of these sophomore wide receivers. I mean, Chris Olave in the 4th round is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Drake London in the 3rd round is ridiculous. Chris Olave is 303 according to the Bulletproof, and Drake London's at 402, which I still think is egregious. But even Devonta Smith going that, I would take these guys over Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs and T. Higgins. So I think those are absolute draft steals. 411 London is absolutely insane. Round 5 Daniel Jones is hilarious. He's just bad. I understand he rushed for 700 yards, but that's the only thing he had. And if any variance kicks in and that changes, he's toast. He's been objectively terrible as a quarterback since coming into the league, and all of a sudden Vanilla Vic is reborn because he got the 2nd contract. So I dislike that very much. And then I'll also say Kyler Murray over Kyle Pitts was a choice.
Fair enough. I actually, we'll get to that later on today because you've mentioned now 2 players that I have on our overrated drafts, so that'll get interesting. Ryan, what do you like in these rounds here?
If you say Kyle Pitts, this whole thing's gonna burn down.
Najee Harris in the 5th round is kind of ridiculous. I mean, we had over 300 touches, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he's going in the 5th round behind a lot of players who probably not even going to come close to that. And he's still fairly young, even though he has this absurd workload already.
Yeah, 5'6", that is ridiculous. I just mentioned before the show that I got him in the 5th round in a single quarterback league, so this is not quite as egregious as that. But
that's his RB1, and I know we don't like his Vanilla Vic pick, but he has 3 good receivers. He has Josh Allen and Daniel Jones, Najee Harris through this for 5 rounds. He has a really good base on this team already.
Yeah, and he's got some good receiver. You're right. I mean, his
Amon-Ra, Ty Hill, and Devonta Adams are a little bit older, half of them, but this team's good right away.
Yeah, agreed.
So can I ask you then, if you were to remove So he's got Tannehill, which I love Tannehill and his value. I think it's a fantastic pick at 13-3. Who would you take instead of Daniel Jones then? Right? So all the players that went after him, Kittle, Judy, like I'd rather have Najee, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather
Well, he had both
have
ends, which is
Mondre,
nice.
right? I'd rather have Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams. Yep, I was going to say that.
I'd rather have Christian Watson. Like I
I'd
just
rather
think
Debo.
I mean,
Nick
sure,
Chubb,
yeah.
yeah.
If you want to go that way too, I just think that there's better options for Daniel. That Daniel Jones is sticking out like a sore thumb.
I think he just panicked and saw the quarterbacks after him and figured if I
Exactly.
don't get one now, I'm not going to get one in this next round. Which after that, I think the next best quarterback that he would have gotten would have been Kenny Pickett potentially or Russell Wilson. So I guess when you look at it like that, maybe he did the right pick, but I would have taken maybe a quarterback one round sooner, maybe.
Or just wait, right? I mean, Derek Carr in the 7th.
Yeah.
Russ Wilson in the 6th. Love that Russ Wilson pick. I mean, Brock Purdy in the 12th is a smash, right? You don't have to completely panic, but I just that Daniel Jones pick is probably going to hold you back from a championship.
Fair enough.
Get back to me if I'm wrong. Holler
Yeah,
at me. I mean,
tell
I'll
him about
take it.
Thomas
I'll take
Tipple
it.
FF on Twitter, or you can go find him on the Discord. He'll be there.
Yeah, Matt. Daniel Jones always looks like so. It's true. He does look like a thumb.
All right, let's look at let's go where we're at the 6th round now. Let's do 6 through 9 here. A couple more rounds that we want to look at, and we'll go to you this time first, Ryan. Give me a couple picks that you'd like or don't like in these couple of rounds.
I mean, I obviously hate the Keyshawn Booty pick at 8-10 because he's terrible at football. But no, dude. I'm happy I'm not picking Alex on that one though, because I was looking for one I didn't like on the last one. I hate that. And that's before like even Zay Flowers and Terry McLaurin, and God, it's gross.
That is really gross.
I like Hollywood. I like the Hollywood round at 7-4. Like on the flip side of it, if DeAndre Hopkins is really not gone and Kyler Murray is healthy, we've seen Hollywood put up wide receiver 1 numbers in multiple weeks with him. And if getting all the targets and that wide receiver 1 spot, I really like that value.
Yeah, I love the Hollywood Brown pick as well, and I agree that Tayshaun Booty pick. I don't know when this draft was done, if it was pre-combine, but
it was still bad because he was still bad then. If you was watching him play football,
but it wouldn't be as bad. There would be some level of doubt.
Well, he just projected as a bad prospect, so like
exactly,
it's hard to justify.
One other pick I really like, especially after you talking about the Daniel Jones pick, is Jared Goff at 7-7.
Like Jared Goff 7-7 is a good pick.
That offense was humming last year, and they're just getting stronger weapons. They may not pass as much, but it's efficient, and he's going to give you nice floor play every single week with it.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Yep, I can vibe with that. I don't even like him there because I think he's again just easily replaced in a year, and you get like half of his games are good and half his games are absolute dog water, and he has a track history of that. But compared to Daniel Jones at 5'3", it's a smash. You're absolutely right. It's a complete smash. Yep.
All right. Let's just wrap up the rest of this, and then we'll look at some individual teams. But just in general, are there any more picks that y'all wanted to point out here before we get to a couple of the individual teams?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So why are we drafting rookies that are questionable at best this high? Tajay Spears at 6'6" is probably more egregious than Bijan at 1-2. I understand that like Tajay Spears is like the new hotness on Twitter and stuff, but by the end of the draft, no one could give a shit. We talked to Noah Hills yesterday on Full Tilt. I'm going to plug that. Go watch that episode over on Full Tilt Fantasy Football Network. It's a phenomenal episode. But like, if you're going to reach for another running back in this rookie class, it should be Zach Charbonnet because he is the second safest running back in terms of 3-down back ability, regardless of if he's like a good player or a bad player. He's probably what the NFL views as the second safest. He doesn't have size concerns. He doesn't have a lot of production concerns. But I mean, Nick Chubb went 2 picks after. And then we can talk about Hyatt over Burks. I understand Hyatt's probably going to get first round draft capital, but Hyatt is going to take over the Jalen Guyton role on whatever team he goes to. And most recent mock draft I found is him being mocked to the Chargers. That makes him Jalen Guyton, who is the fullback of wide receivers. He's out there and he's running routes, but he's a first round pick that shouldn't reflect first round draft capital in fantasy football, if that makes sense, because that is a real football draft pick, not a fantasy football relevant DC relatable draft pick. He is a very gimmicky player. They were lining him up in very interesting situations. The same reason I don't think Hendon Hooker, who was also drafted a little bit high for me, is the same thing. It's a gimmicky offense. And yeah, as Brian said before, Treylon Burks, even if you don't like Burks, it's a war crime. But then you had Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Derrick Henry, Hollywood Brown, even DJ Moore, who I don't like in Chicago, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk, Tony Pollard, all went after Jalen Hyatt. Are you telling me that I can trade you 202 in a dynasty league for those guys? Think about the aftermath. This is horrendous. We are overhyping rookies that are not even worthy of being overhyped. It's like Kyron Williams last year being considered like an upper tier handcuff when he was a trash can, or Isaiah Spiller being taken in this same spot, 6th, 7th round, when he was all the warning signs and flags were there that he was an absolute trash can. And we're doing it again. And I just as a general consensus lesson learned, stop overindulging on rookies just because it's that season.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Yeah, that Tajay Spears one is 6'6". That is ridiculous.
You're hurting yourself.
The Dalton Kincaid's even worse to me for the rookie picks at 5'8". Like, it's one thing to reach on a rookie, but to reach on a tight end rookie,
well, and
you're gonna have that year off. He's somebody at least a year to get in. He's coming off an injury.
Well, factually speaking, I don't know if you know this or not, but there is no tight end other than Kyle Pitts drafted in the top 24 at tight end ADP, not just ADP overall. Tight end ADP at his position in the top 24 have all lost value. All of them every single year, except for Kyle Pitts, who I believe did lose value, but I believe it wasn't more than 1 to 3 spots. That is in the history of tight ends being drafted in fantasy football. None of them gained value. They all lost. So if you're looking for a rookie tight end to break this, draft any rookie outside of the top 24 at that position, and you will gain value for your dynasty teams. Like, I take a crap on Cole Kmet on a regular basis because I think he's just absolutely awful. He gained 10 spots of ADP when supposed superstar TJ Hawkinson, high first round draft pick, lost ADP, significant ADP, 6 to 8 spots the next year, where someone like Cole Kmet gained 10 spots. Wait on rookie tight ends. Please, you can get them cheaper the next year. It's a fucking guarantee. That's one.
Brian is in here, he's a Kincaid truther. He would not take him there. He's a Tajay Spears truther, and he would not take him there. So yeah,
Brian's a smart dynasty player.
Yes, he is. And if you haven't checked out his show, it's the Dynasty Saturday Night 5 on Saturdays, right? You're going to go for 2 Live Network.
I was there last weekend.
Yeah. I was on that not that long ago.
It's a great show on Go for 2 Live. All right, so now I want to look at some of these individual teams here, so we can actually get down to some roster construction. And the first one I want to look at here, we talked about 102 enough, so I won't pick on 102. He was the one that we went on for about a good 15-20 minutes. So let's look at the 107 here. And he didn't make a single trade, and that's why I wanted to talk about him. How are your thoughts on a startup draft and just taking the guy that's there in your round without even trying to trade up, trade down, or anything? What's your thoughts on that, Thomas?
I love it. You know why? Because he didn't force the board. So a lot of people, when they look at a board and they see a lot of activity, and like, I don't like his picks in the sense that, like, I don't like that he took Kelsey over Watson. This is going to be a running theme here, guys. I don't like that he took Jefferson over Lawrence. I would take Jefferson over Fields, but I wouldn't. So that's just general construction for me overall, but not in regards to your question, not forcing the board because you need to get a trade done is very smart. I cut my teeth in the fantasy space. My first handle was the FF trade guy because that is all I did. I was all consumed by it. I had to get trades done. Then I was Mr. Trade back all the time. Now I'm more Mr. Trade up to get these quarterbacks. I am a trade up guy, 100%. But I've also over time learned that I have kneecapped myself more times than not, feeling the need to get that deal done. Like I'm not maximizing my value. But really what this person has done is avoided egregious picks across the board. Eckler at 4.6, fine. Cousins at 5.7, fine. The Tajay Spears, as I mentioned, makes me want to vomit. But Goff at 7.7, fine. Ritter 8.6, fine. Algier, fine. Evans, fine. These are all fine picks. Cup, third, fine. Kelsey, smash. Jefferson, smash. You did yourself a disservice at 6.6, but other than that, not forcing yourself into I mean, I would have traded out at 6.6 if you were going to force yourself into that trade. But
Yeah, that's the
but overall, this is something I don't mind. I know some people look down on not trading at all in a draft, but you don't have to. I mean, a lot of people don't give reasonable trades either. Like I'm a big component of like I'll move up a round to move down 2 rounds later type deal. But most people need to have an extra pick thrown in on trades. And if you're in that kind of room and it's not for you, don't
do it, right?
Yeah.
Ryan, what about you? What are your thoughts on just the Dynasty Startup and not trading? I know you love to trade, so I'm curious.
Honestly, I'm fine with not trading in it. I just I had one recently. It was like 20-some rounds. So I traded only 3 times. It was like 27 round draft. It was Debbie draft. I only traded 3 times, and none were initiated by me. Like I'm okay with it. Get your guys. Roster construction be damned. Like if you look at the board and the way it fell, it could have been very, very good staying still. Like you said, a couple players or picks wouldn't have made, but like it's there. And if you're patient and just play the board and what works, let it fall, man. And you find value in just waiting.
What Matt says here is very true. It's easy to let the draft fall to you if your pick is in the middle. It's also very easy to trade up and trade down if you really do really want to, because most people are okay moving down like half of a round instead of a full round. So that's open to you, but some people just aren't comfortable doing it. But Matt's right. You're in a sweet spot at 1.7.
Yeah, it's a good call. All right, let's flip the script here. Let's look at the pick 106, and he kind of did the opposite thing here. So he picked his first couple of picks there, but then from rounds 4 through round 15, he only took 3 of his own picks and basically traded all over the board. I'll go to you first, Ryan, on this strategy here, where he's all over the board. How do you think his team turned out, for one, and how do you feel about as many trades as he had to make to do this?
I mean, I don't like his receivers. I like the Herbert, Christian McCaffrey, Barkley stuff, but like it kind of went to hell with him moving around like this.
Yes,
it looks like he was the one who gave back to get more picks. And other than the Swift at 6.3, and there's nothing I'm excited about. Like there's no players on this team that I'm like, oh, this is great. It's just a lot of shit. It's just boring players who have capped ceilings. God, if Christian Watson as Jordan Love throwing to him as his wide receiver and extra team's one wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And you got Ayuk, who's the team's wide receiver 2, and you got Keyshawn Booty, who's not going to be in a starting lineup. Like this is like it just did not work out. Like you can trade back, but kind of like you said before, like get in the sweet spots when there's like I don't mind trading back in the 5th, but good players went in those spots.
So there's one thing we're not mentioning is how many future rookie picks got traded. So if I'm 1.6 and I'm looking at the deals he made, he moved back pretty far. There had to be future rookie picks. So if you're netting 2 to 3 future 24 ones and future 24 seconds, I can get behind some of this. The Butte one is absolutely awful. And I like what Kyle says too. To be fair, Ayuk is the wide receiver 1 in that team, and that is factually accurate.
But he wasn't drafted as that for him.
No, but I mean he is.
Yeah.
But I mean it's just one of those things. Like I would rather have just not, if I were in his position. What did we just say with 1.7? He didn't force himself into a trade. This gentleman or person forced themselves into a trade. They didn't want to draft a guy like Trey Lance. Okay, draft Chris Olave, draft Devonta Smith, draft Drake London. That's immediately your team's wide receiver 1, and you still could have netted yourself Kirk Cousins on the way back. So, I mean, you'd be better set up that way than the way that you're set up right now in a win now team, which I'm sorry, if you draft Christian McCaffrey, especially if you draft Barkley as well, you're handcuffing yourself into win now. Those future ones don't matter to you at this point, aside from holding your own, because you always want to hold your own, because then you have control if your team goes south. If your team goes south the next year on a win now team and you don't have your own first, well, guess what? You still have to try to win and double down because somebody else has your damn pick. So I think he trapped himself into trading, which contrasts nicely with what we said about 1-7 and how that person just let the draft come to them. This person let the draft come to them very well for the first 3 rounds, and that entire plan went out the window.
Yeah, because he went like win now, like you mentioned, those first 3 rounds, and then I don't know what he did after that, because definitely none of those guys after that are win now kind of guys. Yeah, I mean, it just he changed his philosophy halfway through. It's like he had a co-owner that took over his draft and just changed what he was trying to do.
That drives me crazy. If you kind of switch, that's how you live in mediocrity.
Yep.
And you never get high enough picks, and you never are competing if you do half win now, half start first.
I think it's okay to pivot, right? Like again, you should never have a dedicated plan going in. I always want to get 2 top 12 quarterbacks in every draft. If it's just not in the cards, you have to be able to pivot. This doesn't feel like a pivot. I feel like this is doing a 180, and the 24 first probably came a knocking, and you jumped at it. But again, Chris Olave and Drake London are worth 2 firsts on their own already. That's not hyperbole. It's fact. So, yeah, you netted that 24-1 or maybe a 24-second, however it worked out for you. But you factually definitely left value on the table by moving back. This was a sweet spot for you. I generally don't want to draft in 4, 5, 6. If you're telling me you've got 2 to 3 first overall value players you're leaving on the board, that's bad process.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's go ahead and pay some more bills here. For Dynasty managers out there, if you want to do something fun and unique for your league for as little as $8.50 a person, we do 1 hour personal league podcasts that are dedicated to your league. We actually have one that we're going to be doing live next Friday. We break down every team in the league. We rank them from worst to first. We do Dynasty, Redraft, Superflex. I think the one we're doing next Friday is actually going to be a salary cap league with contracts and the whole 9. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Degenerates.
If you go visit goingfor2.com/PLP for details and to book your podcast. Again, it's like $8.50 a person. If you're in a 12-man league, just add it to your entry fee. And we'll do these live. You can, we'll send you the audio file, the whole 9. You can keep it and kind of get your leagues sort of activated, talking a little bit more whenever we've done these in the past. The leagues get some trades going, stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. So again, goingfor2.com/PLP.
I will make myself available if you want to lash your teams. If you request me, I will happily make myself available to ruin one of your friends' weekend.
Yes, we could do that. That would be awesome. There has been a couple
of guys. Request Thomas Tipple FF.
Yeah, a couple of the guys come on and they almost want us to trash the other guys in their league. So yeah, we definitely can we can do that for sure.
Eviscerate you like I did poor Alex.
All right, we're gonna round it out here with a overrated Dynasty player headed into this year. Let's go ahead and hit the drop real quick.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
All right, so we're just gonna be drafting some overrated players that we think are a little too high in ADP or that the community in general thinks are too high. We're going to go to you first, Tom. Here, you got the 101. I don't know if we'll get to the full 12 teams or not, but let's go ahead and take a couple here. Give me your first overrated player.
Talked about him already. It's Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle again at wide receiver 5, ahead of Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Olave, his own teammate, and even T. Higgins, who I'm also very low on. Jalen Waddle's production is not only replaceable by all of those guys, plus Stephon Diggs, plus Devonta Smith. You can get a plus on top of that. Again, we love Jalen Waddle because he is fast. He's big boy, run quick. That offense is very good. Tua is very accurate. all those things are all true and still bad for him at the same time, because again, over a quarter of his production came from 2 games last year. So I'm not even saying it's egregious. I'm just saying if your choice is him at 209 or the wide receiver 5-6, trading back and getting a plus on top of him is way better than straight up drafting him at that spot. I think he's overrated for what he can produce. I think he's been a very good player, but there's just other players I would rather have in the long term. They basically cucked Jalen Waddle with being a wide receiver 1, bringing in Tyreek Hill. And I just think, again, him above some of these guys who are standalone alphas already. I mean, we're talking about guys who had some of the greatest rookie wide receiver seasons we've ever had in Olave and Wilson. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has been Jamar Chase good since his run started in his rookie year, going immediately after Jalen Waddle, who's again good, but other players are just as good, if not better, and you can get a plus on top. I think he's being overdrafted.
Fair enough.
See, Brian, I even gave him some credit. Gave Waddle some credit. I hope that explains what I was trying to say.
All right, Ryan, what you got for your 102 here?
I'm kind of going off somebody that Thomas mentioned earlier. It's not much higher, but I think out of the grouping of the quarterbacks at the top of the board, Joe Burrow being at the 4 spot without a rushing upside, very good chance he leaves his T. Higgins here soon because he's going to get that ridiculous deal. It may cap him at some point. He's surrounded with 2 best weapons, but when you get $300 million contract, having those 2 weapons isn't going to be easy. Like, his lines hasn't been great. It's just there's a lot kind of trending the wrong way when you have young guys like Herbert and Lawrence who also add just a little rushing mobility. Obviously, Jackson and Fields who can run. As much as we hate Kyler Murray as a community, he, when healthy, produces a ton of fantasy points. Like, I think where we're taking Herbert, I do too, but like the community in general does not. And we even saw that how this draft went. But like, Burrow has some warts on him as a top fantasy production. Like, non-mobile quarterbacks have to have historic years to produce.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was QB4 in points per game according to playerprofiler.com. He had 36 passing touchdowns and 5 rushing touchdowns. He has to emulate that every year to return value. His breakout year, he was QB10, which QB10 this year was Daniel fucking Jones. So it's what I mean. 700 rushing yards outdoes your 4,634 passing touchdowns. So I think Ryan nailed this. He's going too high. I don't think Herbert's too high. I'd prefer Lawrence over both of them.
I would
too. I think I think you're right. I think it's a little egregious.
All right. So you kind of mentioned this guy earlier too, Thomas, but in the
Please don't say Kyle Pitts.
It's Kyle Pitts, man.
I'm gonna lose my shit.
It's Kyle Pitts, 20th overall according to DLF. That is way too high for me. It's just one. It's a tight end. It wasn't a tight end premium league. Kyle Pitts has the one good season where he had 1,000 yards and he had 1 touchdown that whole season. The Atlanta Falcons in general, they don't have a quarterback. Don't tell me Ritter's going to be the quarterback there. It's just not any good. They're going to have to rebuild that whole. I mean, that whole team is just garbage, and it has been for a while. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. And tight end at 20th overall, that is way too high.
Okay, in that super awesome year where he only scored 1 touchdown and yes had 1,000 yards, you realize how many records he set? Like his targets per route run, his yards per route run, every one of his peripherals.
But records don't give you fancy points.
But it's dynasty, and that means it holds value. When I said that there's been no tight end ever drafted in the top 24 at ADP at the position in their rookie year, and there's only one guy that held his value, and his name was Kyle Pitts, that should mean something. Mark Andrews is losing value at tight end right now. He is hemorrhaging value at tight end. George Kittle absolutely plummeted after 1 injury-plagued season. TJ Hawkinson didn't start out off with a bang. He's already down in that round 5 territory. Dallas Goedert. For all of the negatives in Kyle Pitts' perceived career so far, like the perceived negatives, not only is he holding value, he's gaining ground on other guys, passing guys like Travis Kelce, the tight end. Drafting him at 20 isn't necessarily to say that you're using him at a tight end. You can always get other tight ends, but to say that there's no shot at him like gaining that value in production is kind of crazy to me when Tyler Huntley made Mark Andrews the dynasty tight end 1 for a while. This is Tyler fucking Huntley. You're getting
Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, put some respect on his name. My fault. I'm still mad about the Bengals game, so I had to cuss at him.
Yeah, me too. I hate him because of it.
Like, you're talking about a guy who is holding more value than Chris Olave, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Saquon Barkley, Tua, the 104, the 103, Travis Etienne, Mark Andrews, Stephon Diggs. Even if it is simply that you don't think that it's just a tight end in a non-tight end premium league, tight end still matters unless you're playing in a league that doesn't even have one, which I am in, and it is very weird. But he's that young, he's that athletic, he's that gifted, he's proven it. And yes, there are some deficiencies with the team overall, but to have him underrated because he hasn't produced yet is completely defeating the purpose of what dynasty fantasy football is. So in that spot and in the top 20, you're talking about setting yourself up for the future and being able to go and grab Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson, Mike Trashcan Gesicki, Jawan Johnson, other guys to fill in until that potential is reached. I'd rather have him and not need him than need him and not have. And I think that him slipping to potentially the 3rd round, according to Bulletproof ADP, is an absolute steal right now. I understand why you might think he hasn't done it, and then you're waiting for him to produce, and you're waiting for him to produce every week, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come. But we want to look at the whole picture, and Kyle Pitts is the whole picture. If Kyle Pitts played wide receiver and he had that season, I mean, you're looking at Chris Olave sans 3 touchdowns. So, and it changes his entire perspective. So I think Kyle Pitts is that unicorn. Again, only tight end to not lose substantial value after kind of a bad per expectations. I will add a caveat to what you said though, and add on in your favor. I think the dynasty community went a little crazy with him, saying that he was the 101 in Superflex drafts in his rookie year. I think we did that to ourselves, which kind of annoyed people, and we shoved it down people's throat on Twitter. That's a lot of guys like me. That's our fault. But at his current value, I think it's an absolute smash. This is a guy who was a 1st-round draft pick in startups in his rookie year.
And I agree with most of what you said, except I just can't take him 20th overall. There are receivers I would take over him. There's not a tight end. I think he's still a tight end 1. I'm just not taking him 20th overall.
Sure. So what about in the prospects of holding that value though, or potentially trading that value if you know that you're going to get it, and you know you would get it? Like, he's not a player that you would have a hard time flipping. I mean, you could easily take him at 20 and use a smaller piece and package him up for another top 10 quarterback, and I think it would be so easy to take Kyle Pitts and go and get Trevor Lawrence, go and get Joe Burrow, go and get Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray when he's healthy. You can get Kyler Murray plus for Kyle Pitts right now. So I think it's just not about the player and how to use him.
Value Kyle Pitts more than my leagues do, because there's no way I own Kyle Pitts in my main home league, and I couldn't.
You said home league.
I couldn't move him to save my life, and that league's been going on for 26 years. So those guys know what they're talking about over there.
Right. I care about market, right? So I would very rarely be in a position where I'm not in leagues or talking to people or in a situation that value market. So that's definitely, generally speaking, from my experience.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I own him in a couple leagues, and I just don't see if he ends up having a great season, then maybe his value returns for me. But yeah, right now, the way things stand with the season I saw last year and the way I see the team this year with the quarterback that they have this year, that I don't think he threw his first touchdown until like the week 16, week 17. That's, to me, this is not looking good for Kyle Pitts in the short term, and then potentially the long term too, if they can't figure out the quarterback position. But we spent plenty of time on that pick there. So Tom, you're up here at the 104. Give me your next overrated player.
Daniel Jones. I mean, I have very. I'll caveat this because I've already talked a lot of shit about Daniel Jones, so I'm not gonna triple down. I'll change my pick. Trey Lance at 412. I think that Trey Lance at 412 / QB14. Again, all the ADP I'm using is the Bulletproof Prospect ADP. If you're wondering why, that's not what I looked up. That's the ADP I'm using. I trust it the most out of all of them. They combine a bunch of ADPs to give him a little shout out there, and they do a rolling, so it automatically updates. So Trey Lance sitting at that spot. I think that you're gambling a lot on his upside at this point. I love Trey Lance. He was my QB2 in that class. I'm going to stand by it. I think no matter what team he plays on, he will be hashtag good for fantasy. It's just what team and when. I don't believe in coach speak too much, but they have already said that Purdy has earned the right. They did sign fantasy championship winner Sam Darnold to also be on that roster. Shanahan definitely just refuses to admit that he hates his guts, and the sight of him makes him physically ill. Would play him at fullback if he got the opportunity, I truly believe. But I think that you're taking him over guys like Devonta Adams, Josh Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, who are all able to play in your super flex spot if you needed to. If your team was built that way, I just think there's other players that you could select at that position later, like a Russell Wilson, a Kirk Cousins, a Geno Smith, Derek Carr, that'll probably produce for you this at a similar level over the next 3 years.
Yeah, as a Niners fan there, I definitely agree. I think he's definitely being overvalued. I think he's QB 13, QB 14 in most ADPs that I've seen, and that's just too high for me, especially with the chance that potentially he loses his job to Brock Purdy. I mean,
permanently.
Yeah, so it's definitely too rich for my blood for sure. Ryan, what you got for your the 105 here?
I'm going with Jonathan Taylor as early as he's going. At this point, this offense is not looking good. If they get trade for Lamar, maybe that changes things. But this is a bad offense. It's something that only had 25.
Trading for Lamar would be so bad.
Huh?
Trading for Lamar would be so bad for him because he would not catch any passes anymore. You don't want a rushing quarterback with your elite running backs.
So we're talking a team that had 25 touchdowns last year total. And they somehow are getting worse at quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't want that running back is the third overall. Maybe
you tell me Gardner Minshew's worse than noodle arm Matt Ryan? I will take the jorts wearing thunder god.
That's fair.
That is Gardner Minshew over noodle arm Matt Ryan. All right, let's put some respect on the chew.
I'm fine with that, but it's a bad offense and a bad team. And Jonathan Taylor, he has a lot of carries. He's having ankle injuries already from the IR last year on it. Just the signs aren't there for that high draft capital. And like you preached earlier, that second round QBs, there's a ton of talent there. There's a ton of really good wide receivers in that second round. There's other running backs who I trust more. It's just where he's going at RB3 and that early to mid second, I'm out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Let's see. How can I piss Thomas off for this? I'm going to make this our last pick here so we can get to our last segment here. But I got a couple guys written down here. I'm trying to pick the one that I think you're going to most hate. And another
I know,
guy,
Jamie. I know Bulletproof has Burrow 3. It's fucking crazy. Even Jacob, I love him to death. Jacob Sanderson, one of the smartest individuals I know, not just in Dynasty, is pro buying Burrow right now. And I think some of that is just safety. I can't.
Fair enough. So at 106 here, I'm going to take a guy you mentioned earlier that you liked, and I like him too, just not for where he's going, and that's Treylon Burks, receiver 22, 42 overall, according to DLF. Mm-hmm. And some of the guys that I like over him are some of the other receivers that maybe not quite as young as him, but I still like him a lot more. I'm trying to pull up the ADP now. I lost it there for a second. So guys like I lost it again. Sorry, my phone is acting up over here. Jerry Jeudy, Jameson Williams. These are all guys that he's going higher than. I would like either one of those guys. Marquise Brown, we mentioned earlier. I'd take him over Treylon Burks right now. I just, again, long-term value. Tannehill's there, we think, for at least one more year. But then what after that is if, are they drafting another quarterback? That offense has always been run first. Derrick Henry will be gone eventually as well. So Treylon Burks, I didn't like him coming in. He was my receiver 5 or 6 in that draft class. So I didn't see much that I liked last year. He had a couple good games here and there, but to put him in that wide receiver 2 category in the second year, I just don't see it as a 42nd pick overall. A little bit too much for me.
I don't blame you for that. Scott Barrett at Fantasy Points is so against Treylon Burks. for a lot of reasons. And the only reason I would push back on that, you're not going to make me mad on that. Okay. I understand. But when you're talking about sophomore wide receivers, we know they're the gold mine in fantasy football. Sophomore wide receiver has the highest chance to propel their value into the top 4 rounds. So I always want to take that chance that maybe he blows up. So I understand his rookie year. Remember, he had Malik Willis for a couple of games, Josh Dobbs for a couple of games. He had barely healthy Tannehill when he was healthy. So I'm willing to take the flyer on him there. I agree, but like guys like Debo and Jerry Jeudy, I don't care for because, I mean, they've shown that they're not that great either. I mean, Debo is phenomenal, but Debo without those rushing touchdowns and when Ayuk is blowing up is not the same Debo. We've probably seen Debo's ceiling. I was selling Debo after his breakout year. And so those are some of the guys going around him. And I just personally would rather have the sophomore for the potential of him blowing up. I'm willing to take the L there. I do agree with you that it is probably high.
Fair enough.
And it's people like me doing that, which I apologize for.
All right, let's get to our forgotten fantasy player. And you said you got a guy that's from the way back. Let's see how we can do on this one here.
Yeah.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
Yeah, so before you get to your hints here, before the show, I want to tell the listeners that he asked how far back can he go? And I mentioned John Lobb going back to the 70s on one of his picks. So I'm assuming you're not going back that far.
No, not that far. We're going into the 90s. This is a player that would have broken fantasy football and would have sent people into an absolute outrage at the time. Look, you played for. Are you ready for how many hints do I have to give you?
As many as you want.
Give them to us one at a time.
Okay. He has more receiving yards than rushing yards as a running back.
All right, so he's a running back with more receiving than
90s.
rushing in the 90s.
That'd be 2000s. Shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more.
Ryan, you need more? You look like you're thinking.
Yeah. I'm thinking, but I think something else will push me.
3-time Pro Bowler.
3-time Pro. Oh my god. No, it's definitely not him.
I'm trying to think, because in the 90s there wasn't a ton of quote unquote receiving running backs back then. That list shouldn't be very long. That has more receiving yards.
No, it's 2000. I'm like living in the early 2000s in my brain, and it's killing me.
All right, give me another hint.
Okay, you want another hint? I don't know which one I should give you. He has 2 seasons in the top 10 for receptions.
2 seasons.
I'm not going to answer the chat and their questions. I see you guys.
Sproles was the one. Sproles was what I was thinking, but he was early 2000s. Is it Brian Westbrook?
No.
That was 2000s as well.
Yeah, everything you're thinking is 2000s. I'm trying to bring my brain back into the 90s.
Dude,
If you guys get this, I'm going to be very impressed. There's a couple of hints I know I can give you that you will get it right away.
You said repeat that one more time. He was top 10 in receptions, like
Twice.
For running backs or just overall
Reception.
Holy shit, this should be easy.
Yeah, dude. I was in middle school for this in the 90s, so it makes it a little harder.
This should not be that hard. There wasn't that many running backs catching that many passes back then.
Is it Warwick Dunn?
No.
That's 2001. Fuck. God damn.
He also had some run in the 90s though. So you're not totally off on that. I think it was not the Jeff.
Was it a Miami Dolphin? Was he a Miami Dolphin? Or am I making? No. Okay. Did I think? Keep going.
Okay. He started his career in Phoenix.
Started his career in Phoenix.
I love this. I love seeing how stumped you guys are.
Dude,
He's one of my favorite players of all time.
Holy shit. Started in Phoenix.
Idolized him when I started playing ball.
Oh my God. I know I'm gonna when you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah.
You're gonna flip your shit when
I
I say
know.
it. Let me know when you need another one.
One more, yeah.
He was never his team starting running back.
Oh shit.
There you go. I saw the look on Ryan's face just now.
I think I'm stumped tonight. Like I'm like
This is a good one. This is really a good one. I haven't even guessed one player yet because I'm thinking like this should be easy. This should be an easy one because running backs didn't catch passes in the 90s. So if you're in the top 10 as a running back and you're not the starting
oh
running
my god. Did he back up Emmett when he was in Arizona at the end?
No.
No? Okay.
Shut up, Brian.
Brian, if Brian gets it, he's allowed to get it.
Don't type it in the chat.
The chat's allowed to win.
Oh yeah, see, he had to Google.
Oh,
Not,
then
not
chat's
Thomas
allowed to win.
Jones.
No, Thomas Jones is 2000. Jamie, you're in the same
2000.
years as me, bud.
Yeah.
Let me know. I got a few more.
Keep going.
Okay. He had 100 catch season.
In the 90s, which is ridiculous.
90s. What the?
Fun tidbit, this player was talked about on one of the very first episodes of Full Tilt when we were still the Friday Night Lights podcast.
100
Going
catches
way back
running
now.
back. Roger Craig was 80s. I don't think he's early 90s.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you another one. He played into the 2000s.
Holy shit. Damn, Thomas, you
I
got
can,
it good
I
tonight.
can keep going.
I mean, you can, but yeah.
Okay. Let me just word this correctly. Give me 1 second. I can't even say that.
Narrow
He's
it down to a division. Can we get a division?
So he bounced around. He
course
ended
he
his
did.
career with the New England Patriots in 2003.
Is it Woodhead?
Is it who?
No, I
Woodhead?
think Woodhead ended
No.
he ended with
No.
Chargers.
He ended way later. He had 100 plus targets 3 separate times as early as 2000 or as late as 2001. He reached 130 targets once.
Deion Lewis? Nope.
Nope.
That's
That
way
was
too soon.
later.
Yeah.
Way later.
Oh my god. You're a
Kevin Falk.
Nope. Way later. I'm gonna piss you off because it's so good.
As soon as you said the Patriots and like
Nemo had to Google it. No one say it. Tell me when you tap. He has the second most receptions by a running back all time.
Why is this so hard?
Stop, Nemo. Stop it. He did play for Washington, though. Had a very good season in Washington.
I think I tapped.
Okay. Jeff, did I get you?
Jeff didn't even make a guess yet.
I haven't because
You got to make at least one guess.
in my head I'm like I should.
Dude, I've never tapped on this, and this
should
is
be
broke
easy.
me.
This should be easy.
He never rushed for more than 450 yards.
And he was a running back. Yeah, I'm tapping out. What is the answer?
So this fullback is Larry Centers.
Oh
Wow.
And he would have completely destroyed fantasy football as a fullback. 101 receptions in his age 27 season, 99. This run of dominance in 95, 101 receptions, in 96, 99, in 2000, in his age 32 seasons, 81, in 2001, 80,
Wow.
1994, 77. Like he only had 3 seasons or 4 seasons in the NFL where he did not catch 50 passes as a fullback.
Wow. That is
He's one of the most dominant players of all time. The only player to have more receptions than him as a running back was Marshall Faulk, who only has 6 more receptions than Larry the Man Centers. LaDainian Tomlinson comes in at third at 624. This man would have been the biggest monster and game breaker in fantasy football history, and he did it with multiple teams in 2 different decades.
We could have
Larry
been here all
Sanders
night,
is
and
the
I would have
man.
never got.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah,
I would have. He was not even on my brain. That was a great one.
One of my favorite players. Also had close to 10,000 all-purpose yards. One of the few fullbacks to return kicks for a while.
Wow, great one.
I love me some fullbacks, baby. Bring the fullbacks back.
Good stuff, man. All right, that wraps the show up. Wait,
it was almost a cop out because he wasn't a running back, right? Technically, he was a fullback, but I couldn't say fullback because Jeff would have got it immediately.
It would have limited. Yeah, it would have cut down the pool quite a bit.
That was a really good one.
That was good. I don't even know if we had that one on our because we changed the segment.
No,
this is the first
we
year
have
we're
not.
doing.
No, we definitely have not.
We've never had him on the show even as just a. There's been
that. I think I've been the only person to ever bring up a fullback on the show.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people remember Mike Allstott and his dominance for how he was. And then a lot of people remember like Lorenzo Neal and then Jamil McClain, who almost rushed for 1,000 yards, but was a fullback with the Ravens one year.
That was mine.
But everyone forgets how good Larry Centers was as a split back fullback.
Nice. Good stuff. All right, Thomas, give us your Twitter handle one more time. If you want to plug anything you got going on, go ahead and do that.
All right, folks, there's a lot. Look, first off, I appreciate being here. Jeff, I know you and I disagree quite often. I hope tonight I verbalized some of how I think. So hopefully it allows a little more clarity into how my brain works. Ryan, always a pleasure to discuss again. This is the second time, so we'll have to do it again. You can find me at Thomas Tipple FF. You can find everything Full Tilt at Full Tilt FFB. That's on all the social medias, YouTube, etc. We're very close to 500. It's really been picking up. When you do, we're giving away a custom championship belt from us to you. We're taking care of all of the fees and shipping, so you want to be tied into that. Of the last 3 episodes, absolute bangers. JJ Zachariason, Graham Barfield, Noah Hills. We're not stopping live draft show, all that stuff. You can find me on Twitch at Thomas Tipple FF, playing a lot of MLB The Show and taking trade questions while I do it. I love talking Dynasty, and I love being here to talk Dynasty with all of you. Truly fantastic. Very happy I stumped the GOAT, Jeff Lambert, on Larry Centers.
Jeff's getting smoked in this game.
Yeah. Is he? Okay.
Yeah. It's like 5-1 or 5-2 right now.
No.
Yeah, my brain is not what it used to be. That is for sure. I used to be a trap for all that stuff, and now my old age gets all slipping out.
That wasn't even alive for him. I wasn't even watching football then.
Also, shout out to everyone in the chat. I want to shout out everyone in the chat. You guys have been great.
Yeah, great chat roll tonight. Ryan, what you got going on?
I got nothing. Larry Centers broke my brain. You can see my Twitter handle there. It's Foss534. I'm good.
I got to get that clipped. I need that clip.
Yeah. Larry Centers broke my brain. I love it. All right, guys. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert77. Make sure you check out all the great shows on the Going for Two Live Network. We have a ton of stuff in April. We're going to do our 8th annual NFL first round mock draft the Sunday before the actual NFL draft. And then for the NFL draft, we will be live all 3 days for the entirety of them all. We're going to have multiple hosts taking different segments of the draft show. So definitely want to check that out. Just jump in. We're going to be breaking down from a fancy perspective all the different picks that are going throughout the day. So make sure you check that out at the end of the month. For Ryan, for Thomas, I'm Jeff, and we will see y'all next week.